While Sydney grapples with the fallout of the church attack, the city is still reeling from the unthinkable mass stabbing on the weekend, which claimed 6 lives. As more details come to light about the attacker and his mental illness.
We know him as the man who viciously killed innocent shoppers in a Bondi Junction shopping centre. But Joel Cauchi's parents say he wasn't always this way.
He was brought up in love. He was a loved child.
Growing up, Joel excelled both academically and socially.
Everybody was very supportive of him. His teachers loved him. He was top of the class. He had lots of friends until he got sick.
At 17, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. For around 18 years, he received treatment as he lived with his parents in Toowoomba. Graduating from uni, he was doing so well that when he asked to be weaned off his medication, his doctor agreed.
She did it over a period of a number of years, very carefully giving him the warnings of what might happen.
But early last year, years after he'd stopped seeing his doctor, his dad noticed a concerning obsession.
I took 5 US Army combat knives off him when I brought him up from Brisbane. I said, look, Joel, you're welcome to stay in my place, but you're not going to have these knives here.
Most of the time, a psychotic episode develops quite slowly. They might be hearing voices instructing them to carry out certain acts. They may have very different belief systems, and they dominate the person's thinking, feeling and behaviour.
In March, he moved to Sydney, distancing himself from his family. His social media activity painting a picture of a loner, desperate for companionship.
He wanted a girlfriend, and he's got no social skills, and he was frustrated out of his brain.
What happened next has prompted questions about critical gaps in our mental health care system.
It's a very substantial number of people that have schizophrenia. Very few of them are receiving optimal treatment. The fact that we don't actually fund mental health care is the reason we're in this situation.
Investigators, his family and the nation grappling to understand the role Joel's mental state may have played in his actions.
These tragedies are very rare events, and they are always preventable because people with schizophrenia, if treated, pose no risk to the community.
Cameron Solnordal was diagnosed with schizophrenia 23 years ago and is with us now to discuss this. Cameron, I think a lot of people will be wondering how we got to this point where someone with schizophrenia was running around a shopping centre with a knife. And that suggests something kind of bigger or structural at play. Do we have a problem with our mental health system?
Yes, absolutely, especially our complex mental health system. The benefit of the past 20 years since my diagnosis is that people are talking about their mental health, which is fantastic. But the complex mental health system, when you have a complex diagnosis, it requires complex psychiatry, and when you're dealing with $400 an hour, it's not something that is readily available. In my day, I saw my psychiatrist the same day that I was given the referral. Today, you could be waiting up to 6 months.
Cameron, as someone who's lived with schizophrenia for more than 2 decades, what do you think most people get wrong about it?
Well, the first thing that I always leap to is there is a diagnosis called dissociative identity disorder, or DID. That is a diagnosis of multiple personalities. Schizophrenia is not that. A person experiencing a psychosis-based illness, such as bipolar or schizophrenia, has a psychiatric diagnosis coming with it. So when a person's in a first-stage psychosis, that is the first time they're possibly experiencing it. Some people will experience one case of psychosis in their entire life, and it will never happen again.
Have you been in psychosis before?
Well, my psychosis with my schizophrenia is ongoing. I have auditory hallucinations constantly, but those auditory hallucinations are my own internal dialogue. It's my own voice. But usually that voice is designed to work with you, and mine generally works against me most of the day. So after 20 years, I have the ability to turn it down like a radio station. And yes, it can help me. There are positive symptoms from psychosis. You can have enhanced creativity, but when you separate that from reality, that is when it becomes an issue.
Cameron, if you were experiencing a psychotic break or an episode of psychosis, how aware are you of your own actions?
In my experience, I was completely aware of my own actions, but it was my reasoning that actually led to the understanding that I needed to actually talk to someone. I was very afraid. I was very paranoid and I was very scared. And as a result, when I was trying to explain what was wrong, in a realistic conversational sense like we're having now, it didn't make sense. And that was when, fortunately, I was able to get some help with my family to actually get access to a GP and see a psychiatrist. But the thing is that when I was in my state of psychosis, I was able to know that something was definitely wrong. But considering our family has never had any recorded history of mental illness, it was impossible to navigate.
Cameron, it's been really valuable to get your insights tonight. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks.
Before we leave that story, we should point out if you or someone you know is in need of mental health and mental health support, you can contact an organisation called SANE. They have a support line for you. The number is on our screen now, so it's 1800 187 263.